Hi, I'm Liz Kettle, and I'm one of the authors of Fabric Embellishing, the Basics and Beyond. And in this week's session of our free online book study, we are going to be talking about rubber stamping on fabric. When I say rubber stamping, I'm using that term a little generically because the stamps we are using aren't always made out of rubber anymore. First thing I want to talk to you about is the supplies we need. First, you need to have your coloring objects, your coloring products. You can use regular ink pad stamps that you would use with your paper stamping. They work fine. You do get a little bit lighter impression with those. It's a little more faded because the ink is not covering the fabric completely. Or you can use textile paint. So if I want a light image, I use the stamp pads, and if I want a heavier, fuller image, I use paint, fabric paints. The ones I'm using today are Colorized by Stuart Gill and Byzantia by Stuart Gill. They're some of my favorites because they're really thick paints. And when you're putting them on your stamps, it's not getting into all the cracks. It's staying right on top. To apply your paint, most often it's recommended that you use a foam brush. And what you want to do is get your paint on your brush and tap it onto your stamp. You don't want to brush it. If you brush it, you'll be pushing paint down into all those little holes. So you want to tap it gently. I don't like using these quite as much. They work fine, but I would rather use these larger sponges. These are just small cell sponges that are inexpensive. This one is like a car wash sponge. Just cut them up. Or you can use the foam rollers. I really like to use the foam rollers because they do a nice application on the stamp, but they are kind of hard to find. So these are great. They're inexpensive, and you can have billions of them because you just cut up your foam. And then you need to have a soft surface to stamp on. You want it firm, but to have a little bit of pressure. This is a piece of foam. You could use an old mouse pad, or you can use a magazine. You just need something that has a little bit of give to it so that you can get a good impression. Usually you can find commercial stamps that work really well for your projects. These I like to use a lot. These are hand-carved stamps from India that I get from Artistic Artifacts, and you can get them on her website, artisticartifacts.com. And I like the hand-carved look of them, so they're not perfect, and they're all a little bit different, and some of them are one of a kind. Those are really fun. So let me do a quick demo here. I've got my little sponge, and I'm going to use this blue metallic paint. Get it in there so it's not too gloppy. I'm just going to pop it right on my stamp. After you do this a few times, you kind of know how much paint is enough. I'll put my fabric on my soft surface. I'm just using white fabric here, but you can use any kind of colored fabric or printed fabric. There's really no limit to what you can do, fabrics you can use. Then you want to press very hard on your stamp. You don't want to rock your stamp though, and you don't want to slide it because then you won't get a good impression. But you want to put quite a bit of pressure on it. I usually do it standing up, but then you wouldn't be able to see me. Then I hold my fabric down while I pull my stamp up, and get a nice clear lines without a lot of gooping in between the lines. That's from using the sponge to apply it. Now in the book we talk about making your own stamps because sometimes you just can't find even a hand-carved stamp that you like that's going to work for your project. And in the book we used a carving tool. My blade just fell out. These carving blocks, and you can get these at most craft stores. They're not too expensive. There is a bit of a learning curve though. This is one of my favorite stamps, and sometimes you just want something that's really fast, so just know there is a little bit of a learning curve with this. It's kind of an art form to getting these carved the way you like. And I'm kind of an instant gratification kind of girl, so when I want a stamp that's really simple, what I tend to use is good old fun foam. I buy the fun foam that has the adhesive backing. It has to peel off the paper and it's kind of sticky on the back. And it could not be easier to make stamps with this stuff. It's as simple as cutting. I like to use these Havel's Teflon scissors. They cut through really easily, and they have a micro serration so that when you're doing really tight curves, you can get in there. So you get your shape that you want, you just peel off the back and put it on a backing. This particular backing is a piece of heavy cardboard from the back of a writing tablet. So voila, I have a nice simple stamp, and in order to make it easier to use, I can make a little handle. I just get masking tape. I use the green because it's my favorite color. Just peel off some masking tape, fold it in the middle so it sticks to itself, and then put it down on there. And then you have a little stamp, so you can, it makes it a little bit easier to pick it up rather than trying to pick it up with your fingers, especially because I usually have paint on my fingers, so then I'm getting paint all over my fabric. So that works really well. Here's some samples of the ones I've made. This one is just circles, and this one is lines. I just love lines, so I did my lines in a grid. This one is kind of a leaf bushy shape where I've kind of spread out the pieces a little bit. And this is one of my favorites. It's just lines, kind of looks like railroad tracks. I think I like using this a lot in my journals. One of the other cool things you can do with this is to draw in it. You just need a regular pen. It doesn't even have to be a pen that works. And you just draw lines. Kind of hard to do standing up. I hope you can see that. And what you're going to be printing is a negative. So if you're printing on white fabric, you will get white, thin white lines. So it's a great way to add detail. There's a couple that I've carved, drawn into. This one is just some overlapping straight lines, and this one's more of a grid. Let me show you on this. Do a little stamp here. The Fun Foam doesn't absorb the paint totally when you're putting it on, so you get a little bit of a mottled look. It's not completely solid. Paper here, paint everywhere. Then I turn it over and push it down into my fabric. Now, the type of fabric you're using will also make a difference. If you're using a heavily textured fabric, you won't get as clear an impression. If you have an open weave fabric, like I have a very open weave lightweight muslin here, so it's not going to give me as clear and crisp an image as if I had a very tightly woven fabric. Here is that. You can see you get these great fine lines and this little bit of spongy look from the sponge stamp on the foam. I really like that effect a lot. It's fun to use. What I like to do also is kind of combine those two techniques. So here I took an image. This is one of the free, the copyright-free images from Dover, and I actually made it the size I wanted and printed it out on my computer. And then I cut it out, and then kind of loosely cut it out, and then glued it onto the paper side of the Fun Foam. Then I used my Havel scissors to cut it out, and that's where the serration comes in when you're doing really intricate shapes. And then I glued it, peeled off the backing and put it on this heavy cardboard. And then I took my pen and drew some little detail lines in here so that I could get a little bit of definition in my dragonfly. I'll show you how that looks. It's really fun. I don't worry too much about getting paint onto the cardboard. There's usually enough definition. I'll wipe off some of it, but there's enough definition in the foam. It's high enough off the cardboard surface that it doesn't usually get on the fabric. Every once in a while I have a bad print, but then I put it down, press, 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 and then fill it up. I have this great dragonfly, as you can see. I don't know, I'll take a picture and put it on the website so you can see it. But here you can see these nice detailed lines in there that gives it a little definition so you know for sure that it's a dragonfly. The other thing you can use for stamps is found objects. This is one of my favorites. It's just a piece of packing material, and I'll do a little stamp with this. This gives me a very light look because it's very thin lines of plastic. It's just plastic packaging. I like to use all kinds of found things. I can stamp that in there. Pull it up. And there I have a great grid. You can see, just with the trash, stuff you would throw away. So that's kind of my demo on stamping on your fabric. Have fun, play with it. The fun foam is so inexpensive. It comes in a really big pack, so there's no need to fear experimenting. You're not going to run out, and it's inexpensive. It's usually on sale in the summer as well, so that's always fun. And have a lot of fun. Make some stamps with your kids even. It's a great, easy project for them because it's not too messy. No, just a little bit.